Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're basically putting on our scrubs, grabbing our scalpels, and acting as musical surgeons. We're going to completely deconstruct the mechanics and, honestly, the total mystery behind Lisa Loeb's massive 1994 cultural smash hit, Stay, I Missed You. We are going to figure out exactly how this one track managed to embed itself so deeply into the cultural DNA of the 90s and why it's still considered an absolute masterclass in songwriting today. Okay, let's kick things off with this massive number right here. Number 1. This represents the song's absolute peak position on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. Now, you know, reaching the summit of the Billboard chart is literally the ultimate dream for any pop musician, right? It means millions of listeners, non-stop radio airplay, and just total cultural saturation. But in this particular case, that number 1 spot came with a historically unprecedented asterisk.
And here's the crazy part, the ultimate contrast to hitting number 1. Stay actually made history as the very first song to reach number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 by an artist who was entirely 100% unsigned to a record label. I mean, think about that for a second. There was no major label backing her, no massive PR machine working behind the scenes, and definitely no multi-million-dollar promotional budget. It was just this raw, incredible track that somehow organically found its way to the top of the world.
So to figure out exactly how an independent track pulled off this unprecedented global takeover, we've got to dissect it piece by piece. We're going to run through the hook, the mind, the skeleton, the look, and the legacy. Let's get into it.
Section 1. The hook, an unsigned record breaker.
So, getting an unsigned track to the top of the charts takes a perfect storm of talent, impeccable timing, and honestly, a hefty dose of pure Hollywood luck. Picture this. Lisa Loeb is just living in her New York City apartment, and her neighbor happens to be the actor Ethan Hawke. Hawke hears her tape, instantly recognizes how incredibly special it is, and decides to pass it along to director Ben Stiller. Now, Stiller was putting together a movie called Reality Bites, which, as we know now, would go on to be a generation-defining film for Gen X, and Stay didn't just quietly play in the background of a random scene, it became a massive centerpiece of the film's soundtrack. That is what launched Loeb straight into the stratosphere.
All right, moving to Section 2, the mind, overthinking, and relationship tailspins.
Now, on the surface, Stay kind of functions as your standard breakup song. But when you really look closer at the lyrics, it's actually this super deep exploration of inner anxiety and that terrifying experience of just being totally trapped in your own head. Loeb herself has actually said that the song was inspired by real arguments she was having with her boyfriend at the time, who, fun fact, also happened to be her music co-producer. So it's less about the actual other person in the room and way more about the dizzying tailspin of her own internal monologue. The absolute crux of this is established right out of the gate with the opening line, "You say I only hear what I want to." With just those few words, we see the narrator slipping into this confusing tailspin. She's completely unsure if her perception of the relationship is grounded in reality or if she's just projecting her own fears. It perfectly captures that selective hearing we all get when an argument starts spiraling totally out of control, right?
And this right here is the pivotal turning point of the whole argument. On one side, we have that super vulnerable, fear-driven impulse to just bail, and now that I am leaving. It's that classic moment where everything just feels way too confusing, so you hit the panic button and walk away. But then, instantly on the other side, we see the messy, immediate realization that you've just made a colossal mistake. Now I know that I did something wrong because I missed you. It's just this incredibly honest, gut-punch admission of how quickly our pride can dissolve into profound regret.
And then, wow, we hit the lyric that might just be the ultimate thesis statement of the entire song. I think that I'm throwing, but I'm thrown. This right here perfectly encapsulates that classic Gen X relationship angst. It highlights this deeply relatable paradox, believing you're the one in the driver's seat, taking action, throwing the relationship away, asserting your total independence only to suddenly realize you were actually the one being completely emotionally upended or thrown by the massive impact of what you've just done.
Next up, Section 3, the skeleton, subverting the pop formula.
Listen, if you were trying to engineer a number 1 hit in a lab today, you absolutely would not build it like this. The entire architecture of the song literally mimics the real-time escalation of a genuine argument. It kicks off with this acoustic intro, just a simple, bright guitar arpeggio played by Loeb, that sets a super intimate, almost conversational tone. But then comes the verses build up. As her anxious thoughts begin to pile up, the musical dynamic noticeably shifts. The personal pronouns start multiplying fast. I turn the radio on, I turn the radio up, and the bass line becomes way more insistent, physically driving that anxiety forward. And then finally, we reach the refrain. But brilliantly, there is no traditional catchy repeating pop chorus here. Actually, scratch that, there's no chorus at all. Instead, the frantic pacing just totally boils over and resolves into this raw emotional wail of the word no. The structure literally dictates the emotion perfectly.
Moving right along to section 4, the look, the iconic music video.
Now, a song this unique needed a visual representation that didn't just, market the track, but actually amplified its intimate nature. And the resulting music video is just an absolute masterpiece of 90s minimalism. Directed by Ethan Hawke, the video's total simplicity is exactly what makes it so magnetic. The whole thing was filmed in a single, unedited, continuous take, set entirely inside an empty, unfurnished New York apartment. There are no flashy jump cuts, no backup dancers, no elaborate multi-million-dollar set designs, nothing. This deliberate visual stripping down literally forced the viewer to focus entirely on Loeb's raw conversational delivery of the lyrics. And of course, it completely highlighted her soon-to-be iconic cat-eye glasses, which instantly sparked a massive, global fashion trend.
Finally, section 5, the legacy, why Stay still resonates. Plenty of songs hit number 1 and then just completely fade into obscurity, but Stay has stuck around across decades, and it continues to resonate globally precisely because it avoided all those typical paint-by-numbers romantic pop cliches. It didn't offer us a simplified fairy tale. Instead, it offered a deeply over-analytical, incredibly detailed, and honestly somewhat scary mirror for anyone trying to navigate the messy realities of young adult love, blinding pride, and the frequent total breakdown of communication. It basically gave listeners permission to admit that they too get totally trapped in their own heads sometimes.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a little something to chew on. We just broke down exactly how an unsigned artist with a weirdly structured song and a one-take video completely conquered the world. But look at where we are right now. With all the extreme polish, the algorithmic data chasing, and the TikTok engineering in today's modern music industry, is an anomaly like Lisa Loeb's Stay still possible? Could a raw, unedited, completely independent track ever reach that number 1 spot again? Or was this just a beautiful, totally unrepeatable moment in musical history? Think about that next time you turn the radio on. Or turn the radio up. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive, and keep your curiosity alive.